Lecture 11, part 2, and let's talk about our first unsupervised learning clustering algorithm called hierarchical clustering. So last year I actually spelled this word incorrectly and no one told me, and hopefully it's correct here. And in any case, it's a very simple clustering algorithm. So intuitively, we're just starting with each instance as its own cluster, and then we're going to just keep merging clusters that are closest to each other, and then at the end we will have the number of clusters that we want. So let's talk about a very simple example. So suppose we have, say, 5 points like this. What we're going to do is these 2 points, they are closest to each other. Let's cluster them into one cluster, and then these two are, say, the next, and then we put them into one group. And now we run into a problem. How do we define the distance from a point to a cluster? So that's problematic, but here it seems that this point is close to this cluster, so let's put this into a cluster. So now we have 2 clusters. We can stop. These are 2 main groups. So it seems the question that we need to answer is how to define the distance between a point and a cluster. And also the other problem may be if we have one more point, how to define the distance between 2 different clusters. That's actually the more general question that we need to answer. Okay, so we are going to talk about that. And before that, let's give some mathematical notation. I mean, unnecessarily complicated mathematical notation for these clusters. So a cluster is basically just a subset, and a clustering is different from a cluster. So a clustering is the partition of the instances into a cluster. So a partition basically means they are disjoint and they sum up to the complete training set. So that's the mathematical definition. And we talked about distances between points already, so I'm not going to repeat it. So we usually use the Euclidean distance, but we do have these, we call them Manhattan distance, and these infinity distances. But as I said, the important part is how to measure the distance between 2 different clusters. So one way to do that is just use the minimum distance, and I think that's actually the most intuitive way. So suppose you have a block here or a cluster here, and you have a cluster here. The distance between these is just the distance between the closest points. So there's a point here and there's a point here. Then we just define the distance between the clusters as the distance between these 2 points. And that's called single linkage distance. It's just the shortest distance from any instance in one cluster to another. So you can probably guess there is the opposite one, the maximum one, and we're going to call it the complete linkage distance. So you have 2 clusters, and these 2 points seems to be the furthest. So we can use that distance as the distance between 2 clusters. And again, it's called complete linkage distance. So there is another one that's not often used, although it's also kind of intuitive. It's just using the average. It's not used because it's kind of hard to compute, but the idea is, again, very simple. Just take the average, and then compute that distance and use that distance as the distance between 2 clusters. And in the actual lecture, we will go through some examples with actual numbers. So I will not do it here. So I'll skip this. So that's basically it. And this is a mathematical summary of the algorithm. Again, unnecessarily complicated, but as long as you understand what's going on, you can just skip this math. And the only thing that's left that we need to talk about is how to determine the number of clusters. So usually we still use prior knowledge. So suppose we know how many groups we want, then we can just use it as K. And something else we can do is, like equally prior knowledge, is we can use some kind of fixed distance and we could stop after we reach that distance. But the way to figure out that distance is unclear, and we need to use some prior knowledge as well. And sometimes we just don't care. We just don't care about the number of clusters. We just generate the complete tree. And the tree is called a dendrogram. And it's basically a hierarchy of the points without saying how many clusters we want exactly. So one example of this is the tree of life. So think about the ways we group kind of animals and plants into smaller groups. The similar animals are grouped into one group, and we're going to give them a name. And we don't actually need to stop anywhere. We are just going to group them into, say, a bunch of groups and give each group a specific name. And these groups, they are grouped into groups, and then we have names for those as well. So let's have one example of a dendrogram. And so it's not the tree of life, but it's a cluster of similar states in the US. So if you look at a dendrogram like this, you can actually go back and figure out how we cluster this. So the cluster height represents basically how early we are clustering them. So from this dendrogram, we see that these two states here are clustered first at the beginning. So they are the closest, basically. And then next, we put these two together. And next, I don't know which one is a bit higher. Maybe this one, maybe this one. But then at some point, we're combining two clusters into one. And if we want, say, 4 clusters, we can just cut it off at this point. Then we have 1, 2, 3, and 4 different clusters. If we want, say, 8 clusters, then we can cut it off at some point, say, like, not really there, but basically you can choose a place to stop. Then you can have a certain number of clusters as you want. So once you get this dendrogram, you can have any number of clusters as you want. So usually that's what people do. So we usually just figure out the dendrogram using the hierarchical clustering algorithm, and then we plot it, and then maybe from the plot we can figure out what's the appropriate number of clusters even. So here 4 clusters would make sense.